Hey, Ms. V.
Okay, yep.
As soon as Hendrix get back, we should be good.
Did they cancel the Wi-Fi?
No. Oh, you went to go to the tripod, yeah, I was just like, so.
Yeah, that's what she's doing.
Alright,
Okay.
we good?
Yes.
Alright. Alright, hi friends, I appreciate y'all having me in the space. I can't see with these glasses because it's like slightly dim in here. But I think I've formally met everybody here at this point. Y'all can just call me Anthony in this space. I love being in the space. I was telling Van, like, I love the energy at KOCA. So today we're really talking about like what it means to support teachers with language objectives. So I know these are norms for KIPP. I'm gonna go ahead and say that like one of the things that I appreciate is the idea of iron sharpens iron. Because you all are the ones who are gonna sharpen me, so that you can let me know what my support needs to look like and how I can better support y'all and teachers here. So when it comes to my role as ESL instructional specialist, I live in the world of like the what in terms of supporting strategies for emergent bilingual students. So like my role is not like, as you know, giving I'm a stutter, I'll just name that, so I will continue to stutter. But my role is not to give feedback to teachers, but it's to like partner with you all shoulder to shoulder, look at classrooms and see like what is the levers that we need to pull on to just move the needle for like EB students. So that is where I live. This is our content objective. So Caesar, can I have you just read these out loud?
Sure. BK,
Big
I was about to say, it's gang, son.
Big Kips will be able to explain how language objectives support instruction for all students and are necessary for EB students. Big Kipsters will be able to support teachers in crafting language objectives. Big Kipsters will be able to navigate elevation to support teachers using different language engagement strategies and scaffolds.
Does this sound aligned to like what we want?
Yeah.
All right. So modeling that is a language objective tied to each of those content objectives. Cook, could you go ahead and read this out?
Big Kipsters will be, thank you for calling me Cook, that was process. Big Kipsters will be able to orally describe the benefits of language objectives using the QSSA strategy. Big Kipsters will be able to paraphrase the CFS for language objectives in a written response using sentence stems. Big Kipsters will be able to orally explain to a teacher in a TWPS how to use elevation to find aligned engagement strategies that support language development.
All right. So here I'm trying to like model what it looks like, and what I really want to point out, and we will get back to this, is like in each of these, I explicitly mention an engagement strategy, right? Not just like the type of language, but like what is the actual engagement strategy that is going to be used.
I'm sorry, what's QSSA?
I'm gonna model it for you.
Okay.
But it's question, signal, stem, and I forgot the S, but basically it is a structured way to just like ask everybody to think about a question, process it, share it, and then warm call somebody into the space, right? So it's just like going back into like the ideas of like how do we structure classroom discussions.
TWPS?
I just want like a training on that, like the teachers will have like a training on that alone.
And you're going to love elevation, and I can always plug in more.
Okay.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about elevation, and
I like this.
so this is what is available. And if you ever need me to do more, I am happy to do more. Like I probably won't say no. I just want to stamp my Van and Cook saw this. So I'm an ESL instructional specialist, and look, one of the things that draws my heart to this work is that I'm the son of immigrants, first generation citizen over here in the country. And I was the first to graduate college and high school in my family, right? So this is my dad over here. So he came to the States when he was a teenager, right? And within a year of being in middle school, he dropped out because he didn't feel like he was connected to his middle school because he didn't speak the language, right? And so I think about what the impact on his life would have been had he felt connected, had he felt like he had support, right? Like what would have been different in his life and our lives because of that. And
From where is he from?
he's Cuban. We're all, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's what I missed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's the idea of like what we're gonna be, how we're going to be spending our time, right? Stamping our collective data, stamping our collective why, just in a broad overview of TELPAS data, defining what language objectives are. We're gonna spend some time actually refining some language objectives that I've seen on your campus. Then we're gonna spend some time navigating elevation for engagement. And then Van and Cook mentioned like the idea of like how do we scaffold some things for like our EB students. Elevations has like a list of scaffolds tied to each strategy that you might want to try. So that's gonna be like a cool place. And then for me, as I'm new to this role, new to this KIP, I really like would appreciate feedback in the form of a survey, just so I know like how I can improve, and what else to provide in the future. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So this is KLCA specific TELPAS composite level. So overview of TELPAS. Remember, we've got like our 4 language domains, like listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So the composite is like the average of that. So you'll see beginning, intermediate, advanced, advanced high. And you see these over here? These are from TELPAS out. So like our duly identified students.
Oh,
So
I
just-
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Which one is it? What, these two?
TELPAS out.
Okay, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like game.
Mm-hmm. So I just want you to take 20 seconds to just notice the number of students at each level. Right?
That's me. Sure. It's
Okay, so now this is specifically speaking levels from TELPAS. What do you notice about the data here, and how does it compare to the composite level? So give yourself about 30 seconds to think.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Mr. Castro. Do I have access to this? Is this in the handout?
Ooh,
slide.
you know what?
Oh, she
Oh, that's making.
Thank
more
you,
sense.
thank you, Mary.
I was like, I don't see.
I was gonna ask her if she could see it, but then I was like, oh, she looks so engaged. Cause she's like, where's it at?
She's really
Yeah.
going in, yeah.
Find it.
I appreciate you, Mary.
No, thanks for accommodating me, you know, me and my IEP.
All right, so I shared it with you. We are on the slide that says TELPAS speaking levels.
Cool, okay, I'm good from there.
All right, just go ahead and let's see. So we got 1, 2, 1, 2. Van, partner with me. Go ahead and just share like what do you notice?
They're so loud.
In the lab,
In the beginning level of speaking, but I noticed when I'm observing in classroom, they still don't say much. So they're not actively speaking often, which makes me think they don't talk a lot like at home, when the person going into like, they're taking over to their phone, they don't have an opportunity to speak. Yeah, that's on the end of like, when you're close environment, but that's not.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And I will say that this is not uncommon across kids, right? So then I think about like, then what is our charge?
Push these kids to speak out loud, and sometimes record their presentations before, and have them look at their presentations before they actually get in front of the classroom.
Speaking of
That's a big move.
Yeah, that's
We don't like.
Close up your
3
thoughts in
kids
about
who
10
are
seconds.
classified beginning.
That's huge.
David speaks. No pun intended.
Oh, wow.
All right,
Speaking of,
who has something on their heart?
I do. I think the number for beginning is a large number. But also I see in class, a lot of these students are not sharing out, like even in the turning talk. And I'm like, did they even say anything to their partner? Or it's like they're kind of just blending in. So I'm pushing the English department to, you know, with the cold call, the warm call, I'm coming to you after I do this, to ensure that they're not just calling the same students. Also, when they're presenting, to get the students to record their presentations first, have the students to look at it before they actually get in front of the class and have to present, so they can listen to themselves speak, so they can make any changes or revises they wanna make to their speech, and then present in front of the classroom.
I love that.
But I just had a thought, is this related any way to like developmental age, or like a developmental age?
So I can give you an idea that in terms of like second language acquisition, like children, just anybody in general will go through like a silent period of about 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. right? So if we have somebody who's been in an English-speaking like environment for longer than 6 months, and they're kind of still in that selling period, then that means that they're not receiving the support or the
Okay.
opportunities
Okay.
to advance beyond that, right?
Okay.
So now we see the number of students at the beginning level. So I wanted to kind of like stamp what that looks like. So these are some of the descriptors from TOPAS. So take about a minute to kind of read through that.
This makes so much more sense.
Right.
And, yeah.
So with this now, like this is kind of contextualizing the information for us. I want you to think about it. What is the potential impact on a student's life if they leave our care at this descriptor level?
It's barely functional.
What do you mean by that?
It's barely enough to function through society. You know, on a day-to-day, like your day-to-day, when you go into a job and you have to speak or greet, or you have to interview someone, or you have to be interviewed, or you have to complete a form at work, and then you have to ask a question to your supervisor. It's barely functional in order to ask a question at Kroger, where do I stock this? I don't know, we redesigned the store or whatever. It's barely functional.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And when I think of look at it as well, I would be hesitant to even speak in public or even just ask questions, you know, because I don't have the skills and the tools necessary to be able to to feel comfortable in asking the question appropriately with the barriers.
And that, I was just gonna say it's access. Like it is like for me, like it just brings anger up because it's an equity issue because we're not giving them access to go to school. We're not giving them access to advocate, right? We're not giving them access to be able to show up in their true authentic self and show their brilliance. And that like intellectual inferiority feeling is so crippling for kids of color. And then add a language barrier to it, that's a lot.
Yeah. So like this, Mary, you wanna be our last one?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to like kind of push on like kind of what like Ms. Edwards was saying though. Coming from my mom's like an immigrant, like she married in, so and came to the United States. So yes to all of those things. However, like when you have these big communities, like my mom speaks Korean, so it's not like it's Spanish, which is pretty typical in a lot of areas. But where I live, Spanish, sorry.
That's her.
Korean, like her language, like she can speak her language to several people in the community. She can get a job at a store that was mainly Korean speaking people. So it's not limiting so much, but it is it's like, you know how we say think globally, but like, what does that say? Like think globally, but like work globally or change locally, like that. It does limit that access because of the limited English, but there are some pushes where in their communities where they would still have those same opportunities, but you have to focus on like the English like speaking communities, I guess, where you can like, cause you can go to college and still speak a different language, you know, like they could go back to their country and go to college and still come back here. So there's just different things there, but, so I just wanted to put that out there too, like just coming from a family with multiple languages myself, and then my mom learning the language as well. But just know that they can function, but they will do it differently and adapt differently. So like, but we want to make them like global competitors. And so that would be a push.
Yeah, because how many doctors are doctors in another country and they come here and they're not allowed to practice?
Yep.
Right? Yeah, they're gas station attendants.
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
keep it
I
real.
appreciate you so much, Mary, for bringing that into the space, because the point of this is not to be like focused on just like the deficit,
Right.
because we are not the only stop in a person's life,
Right.
but we are an important stop,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
My father is now doing really well and is completely fluent now, right?
Wow.
That's great.
Right? So because he found support outside of education,
Yeah.
but that also included some other obstacles that
Yeah.
he needed to surmount.
Yeah.
But like Mary said, he found community in other places.
Mm.
I think through the lens of like, how can we provide that community now?
Yeah.
Mm.
Right.
And still see language as a gift, because it is.
Yes.
Mhm.
So we're gonna talk about defining language objectives as a piece
Mm.
that can move the needle forward for like our EB kids, because where my heart lies is if this lives in the land of compliance, it is not going to change instruction.
Yeah.
And if it is on the board but doesn't change instruction, then we have lost. Okay. So, Ms. Edwards, right? Could you read the slide for me?
Language objectives clarify how language instruction is integrated with content and specifically identify, number one, the way students will use language to accomplish the content objectives. Number two, the specific components of academic language, vocabulary, language structures, or etc. the students will need to learn to accomplish the language objectives.
So really what we're looking at is we're thinking about the idea that in all our classrooms, we have a content objective, like we are trying to get our kids to do something with their brain and accomplishment, right?
Yes.
That is our destination. In every single lesson, no matter if we have a language objective or not, we use language to get to that destination. Like we can't have a lesson where the kids don't listen to anything. We can joke that that happens, but like they have to be able to listen to something. They have to be able to speak on something. They have to be able to read upon something, right? So then what our task is to be intentional about how they get there, because we can help refine language practices getting to our content objective. So I don't know if like how Kip talks about like the idea of like visible learning or effect sizes, but like the 30-second intro is there's like a whole lot of information about different like classroom practices and like how much growth you can get out of a student doing X, Y, Z
Oh,
things.
Mary
right?
talked about that.
Mhm. So the gold standard is we want to be like 0.4 effect size. So ask your AP stats teacher over there what that means. That's not where my land like brain goes, right? But 0.4 means a year of growth. So we want to be around 0.4 and above. When it comes to classroom discussion, being the idea that like students are speaking to each other, that's 0.82. So that's about 2 years worth of growth if it's done really well.
Wow.
Yeah. Like this can change the game. And this is where language objectives can really help us, right? Because then we're thinking about our engagement strategies and how we're getting like our children to speak and use language.
Wow.
So now, right, we have these beginner speaking descriptors again. And I said I wanted to model that the QSSA strategy, right? So here's my question to you all, right? Another slide. This is our descriptors. Mary's already brought up that there's a lot of strengths that come with being like an English language learner, an emergent bilingual, right? But educators need to support students using language objectives, right? Why should we, as educators, support a student using content and language objectives? So I want you to think about this for about 30 seconds and then just give me a thumbs up when you have the beginning of a thought. Why should
Can
we,
you repeat the question?
why should we as educators support students using a content and language objective? One thumbs up. About 10 more seconds. All right. So on a sticky note or at the bottom of that paper that I handed you, I have a stem for you. Educators need to support students with both content and language objectives because. take a minute to answer the question using the STEM. You've got about 20 seconds.
Welcome for that.
About 10 seconds. All right, go ahead and look at me for a moment. All right, so you're gonna be in your same partners. This time, the person closest to the windows is gonna speak first. And then your other partner will share. All right, so go ahead and share your response to the question.
I put the line, because language is the avenue and the access for them to master the object, the content object.
I said, it will help the student gain content knowledge as well as the language knowledge and to overcome the everyday
You said
Sorry,
twice.
I answered, everybody's texting me about.
Yeah, what I wrote is educators need to support students with both content and language objectives because poor language skills inhibits the ability to communicate, to be able to advocate, to
Through how
advance.
each
And what I
student
was starting
is
to
going to
think is
be
like,
able to do the work. And
This-
so if you know
this
how
goes
each student is able
beyond
to do
just
the work,
EVs, because when I think
and
about
you see
just
them do it, then you know what they're thinking. Nothing else.
even a black and brown kid that
So
is
bring it back in
trying
about
to
5 seconds.
communicate,
Appreciate you.
if they can't do that, well, even if they've got poor grammar skills or they're using the same short phrases, like, they're also in that same bucket.
All right, my friends. So, Mr. Mosley, can you go ahead and share? That was a cold call. I didn't have time to do one call.
Freezing call.
Yeah.
It's all good. I think, what I put was, educators need to support students with, both content and learning objectives because it connects content. It connects the content and gives students clarity on what, they're learning and what needs to be done. And so for me, it was like when I was talking with Ms. Cook, I think, when I look at the language objective and content, and language and content objective, it's all about making that connection. You know, making that connection with, so that our EB students, and not only just EB students, but students in the classroom overall, can be able to get greater understanding of what, needs to be done in the class.
I appreciate you. Question, who spoke?
I did. Out of our group or their group?
In this room, who did speaking?
Oh, everybody.
Everybody did.
Okay,
Oh,
so then if I had asked the question
Who
instead,
spoke first?
how many people, and we raised hands, how many people would have spoken?
Maybe two.
Maybe 2, right?
Mm.
Does that mean I get to hear everybody? No,
Mm.
but everybody gets an opportunity to practice oral language, right? So keep that in mind. So then what is the impact then on students in a classroom?
More students having conversations. I think I'm wondering then would the teacher, like, should they be getting to near the ED students to make sure they are speaking, is what I'm wondering.
What do you think?
I would say yes, so it's like, if I know my kids that always talk, like, I'm gonna move away from them and move closer to my kids who don't, so that maybe they just need some additional, like, prompting to speak, but I also don't want them to feel uncomfortable, or shy, you know?
Okay, so then, can I continue to push?
Sure.
So then, what would a teacher in the classroom need to be able to know where to be in the room? Like, where should they be listening?
Oh, for sure, their seating chart, like, and it labeled with our colors that we've been talking about of like, this is my these are my EB students, and I also think putting them with someone who has, like if it's an intermediate and advanced, like putting them together so that maybe the advanced student can also help prompt them as well.
Yes. And so then as school leaders, as people who are not directly in the classroom but supporting teachers, where do we lend our support?
The seating chart.
I don't know how y'all are doing.
And the strategy,
Mhm.
like,
I would say,
and the plan feedback.
Lesson plan feedback, the strategy, and y'all know I'm on down this strat mode.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, what made this process, not too difficult was, just the sentence stem.
Mm-hmm.
Just having a sentence stem for them to be, for me, or even for them to be able to, like, have some tool to start speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And so just having a sentence stem is big.
Yes. I forget the quote, sometimes for like fragmentary like sentences lead to like fragmentary thinking, like, right? So I remember even like walking through classrooms here and at KTA, just like in secondary in general, like I just saw like, heard a lot of students beginning the sentence with because. Now, when I'm informally speaking, do I say because a lot? Yes, absolutely. And I also realized I was having an impact on my third grade students, and they were doing the same thing. So when I got their writing in third grade, all of their sentences started with because, and I'm like, this is not what I want, right? So if we're gonna talk a little bit about like how language supports each other, but this will move the needle forward also in writing, not just in speaking. So we're gonna talk about refining some language objectives, right? So this is going to be kind of like a model exemplar of what I would expect just like a language objective that changes instruction to be, right? So we've got the content objective. KIPSers will be able to classify triangles based on their angles, right? A language objective here is KIPSers will be able to orally describe the characteristics of different triangles using the QSSA strategy. Right? So we've got the who is the easiest part, like the students, right? The language domain is, you're telling me what is the like vehicle, right? Like, are they orally describing? Are they describing in a written response? Now, I want to stamp that in every lesson, you're probably going to be hitting all 4 parts of language. A language objective just means you're intentionally planning one part of it, right? So my language objective here is like orally describe, like, so they're speaking, they might be writing, they're going to be listening. They're going to be reading, probably, right? But what I'm doing is intentionally planning an activity around what I think they need, which is become better speakers. I've got the content, right? Basically just borrowing the language from the content objective, and I've got the engagement strategy.
I'm sorry, did I miss the engagement strategy? What the QSSA was?
We actually did.
We did?
Yeah.
Questions?
So now I remember like in the middle, so like we got the question, the signal, so when I ask you like a thumbs up.
Oh.
Signal, thank you.
There we go.
Question.
Signal, question signals.
STEM, like us offering a sentence STEM, and this is all on elevation, I promise.
Okay.
And then the share,
Oh.
share with each other. And then the assess is I call somebody into the space.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was involved me trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I appreciate you. So this is how Anthony's brain operates when he's thinking through a language objective. So this is what I will be doing if I'm gonna be participating in like one of your content team meetings. I'm gonna be internalizing the lesson.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna be looking through like, what's a language objective that I would write, right? So first thing, I would actually push the teacher to look at their TELPAS roster, like not their TELPAS, their roster, and look at the TELPAS data, right? And then think through like, what are the 2 language domains you think are like the highest level? Like, I think speaking is probably gonna be 1, okay? But look at the TELPAS data first, right? So what are the 2 language domains where students perform the lowest? Okay? Then just read the content objective of the lessons. What kind of thinking will students be doing? Look at the exit ticket for the lesson. How will students show their understanding? One thing that I wanna point out here is like 99% of exit tickets are written.
Yes.
That does not mean that 99% of language objectives should be written. Because when you're writing, you're producing. But when you're speaking, you are also producing. Yeah, they're both like productive parts of language. Listening and reading are receptive parts of language. So speaking will promote writing. Like I remember like when I was a third grade teacher, like I would have my children act out their scenes from writing and then speak it into existence and then write it, right? Like that really like supported their writing. Again, speaking will support writing, and vice versa. Writing will also support speaking. Like that's why in the QSSSA, you all had an opportunity to like write something down first and then speak. Okay.
And that's the thing too, I mean, even when you're saying speaking will support writing, because I noticed that a lot of students write the way they speak. And so that's a lot, and so that's where they have so many different medical areas as well because of that. And so if they're speaking more, using the correct lingo, their writing will improve as well.
You got it. Now,
No, you're not. That's good.
let's see. Now, after you looked at the exit ticket, think about what do students need to listen to, speak about, read about, or write about. So if I'm doing a lesson about classifying triangles, like, okay, I know that this is gonna be about characteristics, so they're gonna be doing a lot of reading about characteristics and a lot of talking about characteristics. That's what they're going to need to be able to do to then do the exit ticket, which might be written down. So my language objective, like I would choose like orally describe the characteristics of a triangle. Okay. Now that I've got that, like that's what I want to do. I want them to speak this into existence. I'm going to pick an engagement strategy that'll help me. Like, and that engagement strategy is going to be about getting them to speak. And then elevation has like 100 different strategies, but like, don't think that you always have to go to elevation. You might have like a school-based like engagement strategy that you're pushing, and if it hits this, like it gets kids to talk in a structured way, that's great too. So this is the multilingual crosswalk form. Suarez, I believe, has shown it to you, like the two of you, and this is like a way to think about language objectives. I'm going to break it down a little bit further, right? Content language objectives are clearly displayed, so that means either on the board or written on the student handout, right? So like I actually saw some teachers at, was it KDM, like actually put the language objective at the top of their guided notes. Hey, that's that's not a bad idea. I would just push to still have it on the board.
Okay.
Okay.
That way it stays visible for the learner too.
Yeah. Objectives aligned to the standards. So what that means is easiest way to speak to it for the teachers is to like borrow a phrase from the content objective, right? So if we're going back to math, classifying triangles or triangles should be in the language objective. Objective aligned to ELPS. I think this is where some hiccups happen, like where people like, I must look at the ELPS and look them up. Like, you can,
Right.
and if you just tell me like the type of work that they're going to be doing, are they going to be listening, are they going to be speaking, are they going to be reading, or are they going to be writing, you're hitting an ELPS. Like you truly are. So don't necessarily worry about like it's ELPS 5.c, worry about like what is the language task that they're going to be doing.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Is like I mentioned. So ELPS are actual standards for
Yes.
ways that EB students can tackle one of the 4 domains, but a language objective is what is specifically married to the content that is happening in the classroom.
Dean Lewis
Yes.
is parking her car. If you're attending, please report to the cafeteria. Dean Lewis is
3:30.
parking her car at this moment. If you're attending, please come to the cafeteria. Thank you.
So in the way that a content objective comes from the TEKS, a language objective does stem from the ELPS, but as you said, it combines like a content objective and an ELP. Right?
Okay, helpful.
Then this is the academic language or task. This is where I'm talking about like using a strategy from elevation or some other type of structured discourse. So my push would be a turn and talk can be an example of structured discourse, but I want you to think about a turn and talk that has not worked.
Oh, plenty.
Yeah, why did they not work?
Cause a lot of students kept silent.
Or they just started talking about something else because they were like, well, I actually don't know anything about this topic, or I don't know where to start, so. How's your grandma?
Yeah.
Right? So then what are the additions, right? So let's say a teacher really is just baseline trying to get a turn and talk to work. What additions would we add to that turn and talk?
Fun for writing.
And the sentence stem on the board.
Boom, right? So then that elevates that turn and talk into something much more structured, right? So it's not just like getting kids to like talk to each other, it's getting kids to talk to each other in a structured way.
Yeah.
And then the last one is objectives being shared like with the children. So like going back to, if you remember this cute little semi-circle thing, people are really excited.
It's a baby shower.
Oh!
Surprise baby
Yeah.
shower.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. Anyways, focus. Focus. Getting kids ready to just think about like what they're learning and how they're going to learning about it is going to prepare it, especially if we have like children who might be like anxious about speaking.
Yes.
If you let them know in advance, it's like, hey, I'm gonna be like doing some type of talking work, that will ease them into it as well. Okay. So this is a part of your handout as well, but I thought about where some of the hiccups happen in terms of writing objectives. And so the what is the language task, like right, what language domain is. And so I pulled together some phrases that can be used inside a language objective, right? So if you want children to be doing something like analyzing, but you want them to speak it into existence, how would you say that in a language objective? Students will orally analyze. Students will discuss and analyze. Students will respond orally, their analysis about, right? So like,
Something like that.
yeah. Because we're gonna do like a little bit of work of refining language objectives, and I was doing that myself, and I was like, man, this is hard on my brain. Like,
Right.
so I've got some sentence starters or frames at the top, and then I went into Elevation and I pulled some like high quality strategies that you could use. And then I just like left space there because again, you might have something on your campus that's like you're pushing that will fall underneath one of these. So let's look at one of these. So this is actually,
Scatter plot.
yeah, this is
Heck
actually
yeah.
one of your, this is one of the language objectives I saw at KOCA.
Come on, scatter plot.
So students will be able to construct a scatter plot by hand and technology. This literally went above my head. Language objective. Use scatter plots to identify and describe relationships. So let's go one by one. Content language objectives are clearly displayed.
If this was up, they are displayed.
Yeah, you got it. Objective aligned to the standard. So is the language objective aligned to the content objective?
No.
It's still, both are about scatter plots.
No. Yeah. Mine.
Because it
Now.
says construct a scatter plot, and it says by hand and technology. I don't know, to me, it don't go together.
If the TEK is about scatter plots, I would say yes.
I think
Constructing
what
a
you're
scatter
talking about
plot versus
construct,
using.
identify and describe. Is that what you're pushing on?
In the language objective.
They're constructing a scatter plot by hand and technology.
What I would offer, you're right, and I like
It doesn't go
listen,
together.
I did third grade math.
Okay.
So what I would offer is could then identifying and describing relationships in scatter plots then lead them into
To
constructing.
construct.
Yes.
Hello. I'm just joking.
No.
That's what I said. I had you right.
Okay. Cause I'm like, I don't know, man, but that made me confused.
Yes. If they identified like the relationships between, they could then use that to create a
Yeah.
scatter plot.
Because remember, like if you remember, the content objective is the destination.
Yeah.
The language objective is how we get them
Okay.
there.
Then yes.
Yeah. They don't have to already be there.
Okay, gotcha.
This is good. Hold on, I gotta take my glasses.
You done worked
My
around.
brain's hurting. My fake glasses ain't
Oh,
working.
You done brought the math. Yes, I'm so glad you brought math. Yes.
So then, objective aligned to else. So explicitly state the language domain, listening, speaking, reading, or writing.
No.
No,
Not, so that's the part missing, so that would be our push.
Mm.
Okay. Objective includes the academic language or task, so we see explicitly how they're going to do this description and this identify.
yes.
No.
Tell me,
I thought yes,
why?
because it says use scatter plots, so that's how they're gonna, now they don't say orally describe, so that, they missed that mark on the, F piece, so I said no on that part, because it's not orally describe the relationships, it just says, and to me, you need to specify.
Okay, Cook, what do you think?
I was thinking it would
It's
it would
boring.
need to say like with partner reading or with I'm looking at one of these trying to figure out like one of these specific
Okay.
things. Right now it just says it gives verbs of what they're doing but not the strategy of how they're going to use the verbs. That's how it's playing in my head.
So I would agree with, oh, Harry, you wanna tag in?
Yeah, sorry.
Go for it.
No, yeah, that's, I was just gonna say, like, the language objective, it needs to be, structured in the same way the content objective is structured. So like,
Bye.
I guess it's the students, in this case, students will be able to. So,
Yeah.
through the language objective, it says, students will be able to use scatter plots to identify and describe relationships by,
Mhm.
then you would say,
Whatever that is.
reading or writing or speaking to their partner. Or
Yeah.
something. You could-
Oh, it could be like read, write, draw.
If that was it, if it was like an
Cool.
introduction, like on Monday, I would say by speaking to their partner
It's all
about it.
clicking now.
But then like by Wednesday, if they're still working on scatter plots, then I would say by writing a short description or something like that. Like to include, writing like a 5-word description.
Mm-hmm.
There we
So
go.
it should, so it should include one of the domains, right? So
Yeah.
that's, okay, so one of the domains are what, writing,
Reading,
reading,
writing,
and
speaking,
speaking,
or
and
listening.
listening. Okay.
So,
Yeah, I would push teachers to
So we
change
don't
it,
get spelled out.
because if they're at the beginning of the lesson, it's a routine lesson or whatever, then they can say, you can start off by speaking or listening, but then have a reading or writing portion as the lesson continues on so many days.
yeah, I really appreciate that as well, because again, you might be on this for like a couple of days, your language objective can change as well. So where my brain goes with this, again, third grade math over here, is I would say something like to the effect of students will be able to, if I want them to seek like orally describe the relationships within scatter plots using QSSA, using think, write, pair, share with their partner, right? Like something like that. That's how I would upgrade this.
Good advice.
I was gonna give you time, because if you look at the back of your list, there's actually 2 examples, and I was gonna give you time to kind of like partner up and kind of refine this. If we have time in the next 8 minutes, we will go back to it. But I also wanna show you elevation. So,
Did we have access?
yes,
I was here
Nobody
to
ever sent me access.
Yeah.
Can I check and see if I have access?
yeah, so if you have your laptop right now, go ahead and try logging in. And I can always set some,
Dr. Miss Kate, she can send you the QR code.
Mhm.
So when she did her training, she had a QR code that you could click or the link as well. And like, if you're new to Elevation, just ask her for the link, and she'll be able to send it, because if you have to sign up for it, but you'll get it. Just go to Miss Kate.
so Elevation is honestly quickly becoming one of my favorite websites, because they have Netflix quality like videos for strategies, and I was like, you know, like those strategies like that came from like the 1980s,
Yeah.
and it's like great, like it's not that, and I'm like, whoa. So the way you get to the strategies is once you log in, there's gonna be on the top left like a tab that says activities. I would start there. The cool thing about this is it takes you to a spot that you can then filter by the type of thinking, the grade, the domain, and the grouping. So if I'm thinking about like, hey, I'm about to start a new unit on like social classes in Europe, right? and I'm thinking like I want my children to like build some background knowledge, boom, build background, right? If I'm clarifying input, that means like receptive language. Am I listening, reading? Am I getting information? Fortifying output. Am I making my information clearer? Am I speaking clear? Am I writing clear, right? So the type of thinking work you can filter by.
How did you do strategies and then modules if you go to portal?
Strategies and activities.
Strategies and activities. And then just scroll down and you should come up on elevation right there. And
I got
then
the right
see.
bookmark, but I can
Right
look
there.
at Google for that.
Oh, I see it.
And
That really takes the guesswork out
Wow.
of you and like,
yeah, no, I really love elevation.
Okay, you hit it. Yep.
Then you can filter by grade levels, and then say you want a strategy that's like is gonna really help them practice
Wow.
speaking. Just hit speaking. And then the cool thing is a lot of them have a video explanation. It gives you an example of what it looks like in the classroom. Teacher explains like a couple little tips. Hey, well,
no, I'm just saying, look, stronger graphic organizer, directions. I mean, stronger and clearer. I mean, like, it takes the guesswork out, right?
yes, and this is
So then I'm
my
scrolling
favorite
down.
part is actually this.
And I clicked 9 through 12 and then I chose one of these.
It has suggestions on how to differentiate the
Oh, wow.
activity based off of how their ability level in
It's
a
cool.
language domain is. And when a teacher logs in,
Those
it
are our kids.
literally, yeah, those are your kids.
I was like, I know those names. That's so cool.
So this was for, I believe, QSSSA. So what did it say? Allow students to work with a partner to model language, differentiate questions and stems, so I simplify to a yes or no, or like a what question. So what that means for me is if I have my seating chart,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing what?
Using that too.
You're using it,
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
using it to move around and listen for their comments, their share outs, to see if their language is improving based on how they scored or rated in the previous assessment.
Yes. And then if I have an emergent bilingual student who's a beginner and as a speaker, what thinking am I doing as a teacher about where I place them?
You wanna place them next to a strong speaking advanced academic student, so they can hear language being spoken in a way that it should be.
You may just add a different sentence then. If I know that Juanita's sitting there and she's you know, a newcomer and Mr. Hendricks is at the same table and he's advanced, I might have differentiated sentence stems already at the table for them.
That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Innovation.
And then just like one quick bit like I would add to that is like if I were doing this, right, and since I'm allowing the student to work with a partner to model language, then I think about who is going to speak first. I think so that's sometimes like one of the things that's missing in like turning talks is like that awkward moment where the kids decide like you go first, no you go first, no you go first. That's what did I model earlier?
You told us who's going first.
Yeah, just using something simple like who's ever closest to the window.
Mhm.
But I might also just have like literally designated A, B partners.
Mhm.
Elementary
Yeah.
part like peanut butter jelly, like
Yeah.
peanut butter go first, jelly
Yeah.
go first.
I like it.
That's really it because I was slotted for 4 o'clock.
Can we please do the language strategy theme and practice before we leave?
Which one?
This one.
Yeah. Like so, you want to look at
Can we
Who's
try to
doing it?
revise it and then see if we did it right?
yes. So go. We did the first one, the blue one. Wait, I'm looking at.
The scatter plot.
Yeah. So we did the first one together. Go ahead and look at the second one.
Wait, is this on the handout?
On the handout.
We're doing the one in the yellow dot border.
I'll set a timer for 2 minutes.
Wait, mine's not colors, so what?
At the bottom, it's at the very bottom, it's a scenario, it's a sample of a language objective
It should be
and a
on
content objective.
page 2.
Oh. So, oh, and the yellow dots. Okay.
Yes. don't think I'm good at this. Cause I'm like, I don't know.
And that's why we're here together, and that's why I exist, that's why Christy exists.
Eh,
Content and language objectives are clearly distinct.
Trust me, I was making the same faces.
So, party. What kind of baby shower? No, the baby shower.
What happened to the game?
Yeah, the little boy.
I forgot.
I've got a timer for 20 more seconds.
Oh,
They're literally turning up.
Really?
You know, but it wouldn't be Oak Cliff if they didn't do
Right,
something
exactly.
like this. It really wouldn't. Okay, I just want to say this was super hard. Like,
Very difficult, and I'm
So
stuck on the
difficult.
first CFS.
So then what does that mean for our teachers in the classroom?
They struggling.
and we need to practice. Like,
Yeah,
I
we
wrote
need to
I
practice.
wrote CTT down of like, we need to practice this because even when I was trying to do it before this training, so many questions that I was getting, I was like, I don't know. I don't know.
Can I answer and see if I got it right?
Yeah.
I think there's some parts I have some wonderings, but I'm just curious.
Yeah.
It's because it's history and not math.
No, I was trying with the math part, I was just struggling. So obviously the Kipsters are the who. The content piece is the identify systems of oppression. The what or the language domain is discussion and written, but it's missing a strategy.
What do other people think?
I do agree about it's missing a strategy.
It's missing a strategy. However, I feel like the way they broke that content objective down
Yeah, that threw me for a loop.
was so simplified almost to the point I'm like, is that even the same thing? Use historical context as well as family histories to identify historical and current events that contribute to systems of power and I don't know.
I rewrote it to say Kipsters will be able to respond orally about systems of oppression
She is
using
getting better at content language.
QSSA.
Language objectives right now. We're
Do
just
they think-
finishing the training. Sorry, but that's what we're doing, folks. We are
Because
inspiring
we're
about
at
what
4
is a
o'clock,
good
so
language.
I'm on camera and just talking away, and I hope they weren't talking to me.
He was. I got your back.
Thank you. So that was my change. Student Kipsters will be able to respond orally about systems of oppression because they said class discussion using QSSA. I think I could have also said something about Kipsters will be able to read and identify systems of oppression using something, maybe partner reading.
And I just love the things, and I think again, what you're doing is adding one of the domains. And see, that's what's missing. We have to make sure that we add one of the domains in the learning objective, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and so this is where we can continue to spar. I think like
We gotta come back. Do some more.
like Juanita and Cook mentioned like this idea of class discussion, this class discussion with the domain. I would say yeah, like because you're using like the word discuss, what does that mean? You're speaking. Right?
Gotcha.
And then I also would agree with the idea that it's missing the explicit strategy. An argument could be made that class discussion is the strategy. That would then depend on like what you know about the instruction in the classroom. Like,
Yeah,
because
but it's
class
not
dis-
directed.
That's what I was gonna say.
If it's
I was
not
gonna say there
directed
has to be a
discourse.
CFS for the class discussion requirement.
Yeah.
Like,
This is
what
hard.
does that mean? Okay, there's class discussion, but like, how much are you contributing, you know, so on and so forth, like, so there would have to be some type of, like, in the lesson plan, then you can go like per student, like, I expect, you know, my beginners to have at least a 5-word sentence or a 10, you know, or so many word sentences, or using a new vocabulary word, in their discussion. So I think there should be some type of CFS for that, but I don't think that needs to be listed on the board, it needs to be in the lesson plan, and then that CFS should also be given to those EBs as well, so that they know what the teacher is looking for. for.
So what I would offer is that, because you said this is hard, yes, my brain exploded. And give yourself grace, because it is not about perfection, because we could rewrite this language objective 100 different ways. And it would be a good language objective 100 different ways.
Yeah.
So like the language objective that Cook came up, that was great. Like that would be great. That means the teacher has thought about how to employ language in the classroom, has a strategy, children are going to be engaged and speak.
Because what my head is telling me is to add a strategy and add a domain to what you already have. That's what my head is telling me. However, here, they pretty much simplified the content objective, and I'm like, can you do that? But apparently you can. You know what I'm saying? That's why I don't know why I'm getting stuck in something that probably doesn't matter. But, cause when I see it, I'm like, just add a strategy and add a domain to what you already have, and then you good to go.
So, Mary, did you wanna hop in?
Yeah, I just wanna kind of build on that, just like, at this point, since we're not, like, I feel like I'm a novice to writing lesson objectives, so if I'm novice, then the information that I pass down is gonna be novice or less, right?
Okay.
Hopefully not less. So what I would say to Edwards, to what you're saying is like, I think about what Anthony just said, like you can rewrite it several ways, but my bottom line is like less is more. If you're hitting these CFS on for this, then you're good.
Okay.
And it can be sparred on, of
Okay.
course. However, the gold piece here, or like the takeaway here, is if there's a CFS for the students in that language piece.
Okay.
For example, what does class discussion look like for my beginners?
Okay.
What does class discussion look like for my advanced high students? And so think about it in that special ed mind, when you're providing those accommodations, like we're having to think, what accommodations does each student need, like throughout the lesson? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, if you guys feel like I feel, and maybe you do, like a novice, like this is hard, we're learning it. Less is more, like tackle like what you can like visually see, like okay, class discussion, but like dig deeper and do the push, like in the lesson plan, and then that will come, and then like as we continue to practice throughout the year, I think will be better, like it'll be easier to see, because like you have to think about it again. You have to go through the language objective to get to the content objective, and they're married. So it's not separate. So you have to use the language to get to the content. Like think about it, if you try to think about if you knew another language, like how would you learn academically? You have to know the language first.
Yep, I appreciate you saying that, Mary. What I would anchor us in is like these, like, so you have the list of the CFS, but like, if I can just bring us back to this visual, right? Do we have the who? Do we have like the language piece? Do we tie it back to the content?
And
do we have a strategy? If we can find those pieces in a language objective, we're moving tier 1 support for all our kids, and this is gonna be great for everybody, and we need this for all our EPs.
That's what I wrote down.
Okay, that's on your slides, but not our handout.
I can share the slide with them.
Yes, thank you. That would be helpful.
All right, thank you.
So I know you are in a big honcho meeting, but I would ask you when you get the opportunity to fill this out.
Okay.